Race 6 of the BMW IBSF Men's Skeleton World Cup. We're in Altenberg in Saxony on a snowy day for the second week of sliding here at this German track close to the border with the Czech Republic. Hello everybody, welcome back to our coverage of this second Altenberg weekend. The European Championships underway. Martin Haven and Elizabeth Meyer watching the action with you. And Liz, entertaining lead group.
Definitely. We have a really close battle for those second and third medals. Florian Austin laid it down. He had a phenomenal run, a little bit messy at the bottom of the track, but the top was really, really good. It'll be interesting here to see if he can hold on to a medal and stay potentially in that hunt for a silver medal as well. Really great run by this American slider. Second place, not surprising to see him up at the top, is Christopher Grotier, two-time world champion on this track. Also a really great run. He has a few small areas to clean up, but we saw German knowledge going down this track, and he had a phenomenal run as well. Winner last week, and he laid it down again this week. The fastest starter and held that lead the entire way down the track. Really great run, looking like a Duker's going through Kreisel, which is what you exactly want to be happening. And he had phenomenal speed at the bottom of the track, which let him run away a little bit in the lead. He leads by a decent margin.
Yes, he does. And actually, it was the bottom part of the track, perversely, that he was better at than the man who won 2 World Championship gold medals here, who lies in second place, Christopher Grotier. Grotier was narrowly just about ahead at the Kreisel. Austin Florian for the USA lies in third place. A remarkable first heat run. Really looking forward to that. And 3 British athletes in the top 10. Only 2 German athletes in the top 10. Yeah, I know. Well, you know, time marches on. Well, there's the man who isn't, Felix Kaisinger, one of the fastest starters, but his sled just hemorrhaged speed all the way down. Just wondering when I was walking down to the booth what the air temperature was. It is snowing a tiny bit. I thought, yeah, probably hovering around +2. It says there -2, so tiny little bit of light snow. Well, Andrew Blaser of the USA was the man who just avoided the guillotine. 24 sliders in our first heat. Only the fastest 20 went through. Blaser was second on the start draw and had to wait for a further 22 athletes to go down before he knew he was safe in the race. And he will be the first man off, followed by our World Cup rookie, or one of 2 here, Rasmus Johansson. The other one, Colin Freeling of Belgium, did not make it through, so he will be in our crowd for the second heat. Last to go will be the current leader, Matt Weston, looking for a second straight win here. Race 6 of the BMW IBSF Men's Skeleton World Cup. It's also the European Championships here at Altenberg in Germany. First man off was the second man off in the first heat. Andrew Blaser for the USA just made it into the top 20. And Blaser in his 16th World Cup race. Last week missed the cut. This week will be no worse than 20th.
He had a much better run, definitely, than last week. And this track is looking nice and clean. I mean, when we can see it.
Yeah, interesting that although there's much less snow, it is getting a little bit foggy. That shouldn't be too much of a problem for our athletes. And Blaser just 400s away from Rasmus Johansson and only a 10th away from 18th place Basil Sieber. We could see a lot of changes in the second heat here, Liz.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be a really interesting second heat. Got a lot of close battles up in here.
Ooh, big skid.
A little bit of a bump there, the entry of corner 12. Bit of air time.
Now needs a nice clean exit here over the brow. Does get one as the sled goes light. We will see better top speeds than that. Currently he's the first man in the second heat, so he has the best speed. 58.67 compared to 58.73. That might be enough to move him up 2 spots, maybe a little more, who knows. If, like every other time on this track, it's very easy to give away time. If a few more athletes do, he could live out in the leader's box for a few more sleds.
Definitely. Much better week this week for Blaser. Big waves to the crowd.
Yeah, it's Friday lunchtime now here in Saxony, so not too many folks here. There will be a much bigger crowd at the weekend, but Friday races, most people have real lives and real jobs to do. They're not athletes or, TV lightweights like myself.
We see that toe just dropping on the exit of Kreisel. Bit of a skid.
Sorry, you saw that.
It's all right, you're in the 20. That's one step better, so it's another PB here on this track for Andrew Blaser. Next up, Rasmus Johansson, our World Cup rookie. Now, he followed Blaser immediately out, third starter in our first heat, 20 years old. He is the older of two sliding siblings. His sister is 16, also competes in skeleton for Denmark. Look at that, fingertips on the sled. He really is trying to get maximum speed out of his body. 5:25, 200s ahead of Andrew Blaser. So he's added another 200s to a 400s of a second lead he had from the first heat.
See the head bobbing left and right. Skeleton athlete steers with the head, shoulders, knees, and toes, just trying to get the sled to where he wants it to go.
See him spreading his legs instantly there. That's a really quick way of stopping the sled yawing underneath you.
Yes, exactly. And Rasmus is one of the younger sliders to compete at the Youth Olympic Games, so we're going to see him around, I think, for quite a few years yet.
Wasn't here last week. He was in Winterberg for the Junior World Championships. He claimed the silver medal, so a really big boost to his young career. Coached also by the Germans as well, so he's getting insider knowledge, good track knowledge for these German tracks. Yeah, they'll give him plenty of knowledge right up until the time where he's something of a threat. Now, that was a good run from him as well. 58.41 compared to 58.69 in the first heat, so he improves more than Andrew Blaser did, and he keeps his position. He will be no worse than 19th, and he moves into the leader's box.
Bit of a head shake there through the finish line, but he should be very pleased with that.
Well, I'm sure he is. Making the cut in your debut in a 20-plus field is always a big goal.
You see that toe dropping behind him just to get the sled onto the right line that he would like it. Really quick, really precise, so he's not losing too much speed. A little bit of a pickup here. He's really high on the exit. Not panicking, but takes a bit of a tap on that slider's right.
Well, there you go. 20-year-old Rasmus Johansson. I think, is he the first Dane I've seen sliding skeleton? We've had Norwegians. I can't remember a Dane. However, good to see that he is in the field, and we may well see him in the World Championships. We'll have to see exactly who gets a slice of the action next week. Another relatively occasional slider in the World Cup is Switzerland's Bobsleigh. Now they're sweeping after every second sled now, so upping the ante a little bit. His advantage over the current leader, Rasmus Johansson, you see there from the graphic, just 600ths of a second. And a little bit of sponsorship from a former skeleton athlete, Kafelas. Alexandros Kafelas slid for Greece. He lives in Samoritz, runs a company that looks after all sorts of domestic property maintenance. Alexandros Kafelas supporting his local club as well. I'm sure we'll see him at the Worlds. And again, Basil in that right-hand groove, getting bounced away as the groove ends.
Yeah, same in the first heat, and I haven't seen too many other athletes struggling with that.
Well, most athletes,
settled. Yeah.
Most athletes are right-handed and tend to have their left hand on the sled. And so it tends that the sled is more likely to be in the left-hand groove. So very few go in the right-hand groove.
Yeah, it's all personal preference, which the slider prefers, and sometimes the grooves pull left or right.
And sometimes one groove is a natural choice to lead you better into the first turn. And so quite often, say in Winterberg, you'll see everybody lining up in the left-hand groove because it just gives you that rundown into the zero curve.
And then you want it to the groove that most athletes are using because it stays a little bit cleaner, a little bit quicker.
Exactly. Best speed so far, but not quite enough to catch Rasmus Johansson. He slots into second place. So Bobsleigh for Switzerland, slipping a fraction. 18th in the first heat, drops back into second place. He was 600s up, now comes in 600s back, so a net loss of 1200s. 58.53, just a tenth better than his first run.
Running onto that sled, getting his hands under him to hold on to the sled. And just as he gets kicked out of the groove, it pulls hard right, dropping that left toe, just trying to bring it back. Takes a tap on the sliders right. He's going to get a little bit of air here at the entry of corner 12. When you get too close to that left wall, it kind of just bumps you a little bit and makes this transition into 13 really difficult.
10th World Cup start for Bobsleigh of Switzerland. His previous best was last week, 20th. This week he will be 19th, so another personal best. Vladislav Heraskevich of Ukraine is next up, and Vlad some way back in the field here in 17th after the first of our 2 heats. His best on this track is a 10th place finish, and last week he was 13th, so a little bit under par first run. Let's see if he's got more in the second.
Vlad isn't the quickest on the start, but he is a great pilot. He's coached by his dad, and they go on tour together.
5:30 start in the first heat, 5:27 in the second. Little skating from 4 to 5 won't help.
He's one of the biggest athletes in the field, so he's really got to make sure to get the sled under control, a little bit of less sideways motion.
Their speed of all into the Kreisel.
Nice exit of Kreisel.
2500s up, so he's accelerating away, setting his sights on trying to improve on last week's 13th place finish. 4500s up. This is a much better run from Vladislav Heraskevich of the Ukraine. He shouldn't have been that far back in the first heat. 57.89. That is much better. How much better? That is the 7th fastest run down this track today so far.
Much, much better run for Vlad. I'm sure he'll be a bit more pleased with that than the first heat.
That would have left him in 7th place, 100th ahead of the tie between Yang Wengang and Marcus Wyatt, or Yin Ching rather, and Marcus Wyatt. So much better stuff from Vladislav Heraskevich, and yet still, Liz, plenty to talk about.
Definitely. Coming out of 9, you see the sled just kind of angled a little bit to the slider's left. It's going to be a bit of a skid, losing speed there. He lets the sled go a little bit more in that first pressure, toes dropping in the second and the third. Not as relaxed through Kreisel as he possibly could be.
A big second run from the Ukrainian slider. That might be his best of the fortnight here, and that's the time to pull it out. Next up from France, another one of our newcomers, Lucas Defayet. Only his 4th World Cup, 25 years old, made his debut in Sigulda back in 2021, and last week, 17th place, comfortably his PB. He was 16th in the first heat.
Lucas is really going to have a good run here to fight off Vlad.
I thought it looked pretty convincing up to turn 4. Again, as we saw with Bobsleigh, just a little bit of extra work going on in turn 4.
Lucas he's based in La Plangue, and that's his home track. It's a really difficult track as well. It's a high pressure track, so I'd imagine he takes that knowledge here.
Yeah, lots of steering involved. It's definitely not the glider's paradise. Picking up speed, 4th best, but he is going to drop behind Vladislav Heraskevich. His battle now is with rookie Rasmus Johansson. And at the ball,
really big
looping run, 3rd at the line. So Rasmus and Vladislav are moving up the order. Heraskevich leads, and Johansson in 2nd, and 200s back. Lucas Defayet loses a couple of spots. So what did I say was his World Cup best? 18th place. Well, he is currently 3rd in a field of 20, so he will be no worse than 18th. Always pressure.
Just a little bit of extra pressure left on that sled. We can see it flop off the corner here, corner 9. So he's going to be fighting just all the way down the straightaway, fighting that left wall. Bit of a flop here, which is why we saw those big pressures in 16. He did control them to avoid a hit on the exit, but a lot of ice coverage.
Well, that was his 4th World Cup race, Lucas Defayette. So half of his World Cup career has been on this track in 8 days. There you go. That's a tough place to try and make it all up. Next up for Austria is our 6th starter, Florian Auer, 15th after the first heat. And again, Flo with a lot more experience than some of the younger athletes in the field, although he's only 28. This is his beg your pardon. This is his 40-something, isn't it? Florian Auer, yeah, 46 World Cup start. Last week, tied with his best ever World Cup result, which is 12th place. And again, in that left-hand groove. There's something about being right-handed, Elizabeth, where you feel like pumping with your right arm as you sprint seems more natural. And maybe that's because then the sled is on your left and sort of out of your periphery. I'm not sure what the psychology is there. Somebody can probably explain it.
And also when you go to load on the sled too, just one side is going to be more natural to each athlete.
5:26 getaway, 300s quicker than his first heat. Now he is a real glider. His form is usually absolutely perfect. Let's see what he can produce here, if he can hang on ahead of Hereskevich. Corner 4 says no, that was a lot of ice.
He's on that new Schneider sled and coached by Jeff Payne, which is a coaching change-up this year for these athletes, so it's a bit of a growing process for them as well.
He was 3,700s up, he's now 4,200s up. This is a good run then so far. Again, lots of elevation in the Kreisel.
But he's relaxed through it, a bit of a bump there in the entry of 12.
It's the old adage, isn't it? Let the sled do the work, don't fight it.
Really big pressures here as he goes through 16, 17.
Oh, and he lost a lot of that advantage, but a 57.90. Well, it was a 58.28 in the first heat, so very nearly 0.4 of a second quicker. And that is a big improvement. Takes the lead away from Vladislav Hereskevich. And so, Vlad, well, only 2,800s off the lead. There's a big gap back from him to Rasmus Johansson, who's currently 3rd, who's 9,200s off.
You see him pushing the sled. You want to run it as far as possible. Going to load, that foot is so close to the sled, trying not to step on it. Getting those hands tucked under. Exactly
what I was thinking. You've got to be so close to the sled and yet not step on it. Bent double on ice. Yeah.
He says lovely greetings to everyone at home.
Yep. So Florian Auer is our race leader. Now is the man who has 1,100s in hand over him, Kim Ji-soo of Korea. We've got 2 sliders coming up now who had the 3rd fastest starts in the competition, and they are a 2nd off the pace at the bottom of the track. So first Kim Ji-soo, and next up Felix Kaisinger. Let's see if either of them can make an improvement in their 2nd heat.
Koreans are fast starters.
492.
Great start.
Just about everybody's going a little quicker in the 2nd heat. Maybe it's just a fraction more than that groove opened up a little bit.
A little bit of a tap there on the entry of corner 4.
Lots of work in 4. You compare and contrast that with Axel Junk and Christopher Grotehead, you see them doing nothing.
Definitely looks like they're not doing anything, that's for sure.
Well, as with watching Martin Stukurz, it's the work he does before he gets into the turn that makes all the difference.
Exactly. A little bit of high pressures there in Kreisel.
4/10 up.
Takes it as it is.
This is a good advantage. He only had 1,100s from the first heat. Don't forget, a lot of the speed of Florian Auer went away at the bottom, and this looks better. Hits the wall,
much
but
better.
Yeah, much better run. 57.51. That is comfortably quicker than anything apart from Matt Weston's first run. That is quicker even than Christopher Grotehead, who is currently in the silver medal position. Only 100th quicker, but quicker still. And so that tells us that despite the snow this morning, despite the moist atmosphere, somehow Ralph Mender and his track crew have kept this track getting quicker.
Some of the best track workers in the world. Really high first pressure. You can see that toe, that right toe just drops behind him at the bottom to try and limit that height. Even though he gets quite a bit of height here, he is coming off the corner nicely and is able to control it quite well.
So Kim Ji-soo of Korea, that was an improvement. That was a step forward, actually. So that should see him knocked down in the doldrums outside the top 10. But what about Felix Kaisinger? Only 700s quicker, only just inside a second from the leader. And the first of our German athletes, and we are not in the top 6, or the top 10, or even the top 12. Kaisinger 13th after our first run.
Bit surprised to see Kaisinger so far back.
498. He actually got slower than the first heat, and here comes the snow.
Wow, a little bit of a skid there on the second pressure.
Just working
corner.
too much in 4, isn't he? He's not got 3 to 4 correct.
Yeah, maybe just wanting it a little bit too much, but it's, yeah, a bit odd.
Dropping behind Kim Ji-soo. Not a day to remember for Felix Kaisinger. He's Bavarian. Koenigsee is his home track. This is not. Oh dear, look at the speed.
Just bleeding speed a little bit, maybe from the oversteering in 4 and then also in Kreisel.
Drifting away. Florian Auer in second is half a second back, so he won't drop that far back, but 57.78 compared to 58.10. Okay, it's an improvement, but nothing like the improvement that Kim Ji-soo was able to find. So he is not going to finish necessarily even as high as 13th. That's a disappointment for him.
Definitely, and not what we're used to seeing, especially on a German track. In 4, he controls that first pressure quite well, but as he drops here, you're going to see him oversteering, and it's like pulling the e-brake on your car.
Yeah.
You end up drifting a little bit on that backside. He's much flatter than other athletes we've seen in Kreisel. Just could be bleeding just a little bit too much speed.
We thought that in the first heat. A quick start and the speed just kept dropping all the way down. Looks like the same again. Runner choice may not be optimal. Sweeping again after our 8th athlete. So we get ready for the 9th of our starters, which is Austria's Alexander Schlindner. Now, Schlindner, his previous best on this track, 12th. He was in 12th place. There's your current leader, though, Kim Ji-soo of Korea. Jeff Payne holding the sled and timing the gap for the athletes. The coaches and the athletes are all told at what frequency the sleds will go off. 2 minutes, 2 minutes 10, 2 minutes 20. In the first heat, under 2 minutes, because we had 24 to get through in an hour. Making sure that all the rules and procedures are completely followed. The jury and the coaches as well, double-checking everything.
Come on, let's go.
So this could be a big run for Alexander Schlindner. He had a really nice looking slide in the first heat. He was our first man down. We didn't have much to judge it by then. Little stumble away from the block. Let's see what he's got at the start. It was a 5:18, 5:21.
Yeah, it was difficult because he was that first one off. We're like, okay, it was a pretty good run, but let's see where it ranks up.
Skeleton's quite deceptive. Sometimes when it looks good, it's not, and when it looks messy, it can be really fast.
Really can be that way. A bit loopy there in corner 4 and took that tap into 5. That's gonna hurt his speed as he heads down.
Well, already the gap between Kim Ji-soo and Felix Kaisinger, first to second, is 2/10. He's behind that, but closing back in on Kaisinger. Kaisinger lost speed. He is finding it. Schlindner a little high and wide there. Big skid, but he had best speed of all at that stage. Closing in on second.
Nice looking Kreisel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Second best speed. Now, can he catch Kim Ji-soo at the bottom? It's just about possible. 11 hundredths of a second back.
He needed one more corner to catch him.
That was 39 hundredths of a second better than his first heat off a slower start, and he's dinged his hip, so he'll be really unimpressed by that. But that was a better run from Alexander Schlindner.
It was not a bad run at all. There was a couple like little bits that could go for improvement, but in Kreisel, a little bit flat on that first pressure. If I'm being super picky, drops that toe for second pressure. And for the end of the corner, you can see his right knee going in and not dropping a toe. Bit of air time there, entry of corner 12. You see the snow going away from him as he enters 13.
Yeah, big sideways skid into 13. Well, he drops a spot, but looking to improve on 12th place from last week, his joint World Cup best. And Yang Wengang of China, only 1300s in front of him. So, again, very easy to give that away. Our Olympic bronze medalist in men's skeleton, 9th place in the race last week, 11th in the first heat. Not the fastest starter.
But he's a good driver.
Wow.
Obviously, a great result coming from the Beijing Olympics as well.
Yeah. 5:08
long
second
on
start. 5:16 in the first heat, but again, working hard in 4 to avoid that hit in 5 that he takes anyway.
Just fighting the sled a little bit. Got to settle down as he heads into the bottom part of the track.
Third best speed, but he's very close to Kim Ji-soo. In the green. Speed not quite as good as Alexander Schlintner there, but he's going to take the lead, isn't he? Wan Yengang. Best
Gaining
lead
here at the bottom of the track.
1500s ahead at the line, 57.47 for Yan Wengang of China, compared to a 58.04, so 2700ths of a second improvement for him. Again, not quite as much as some that we've seen, but enough to put him in the lead over Kim Ji-soo. And now Alexander Schlintner in third, needs a couple of people to make major errors to give him a World Cup best result.
As he comes off of 2, he just stays on a little bit too long, so he's gonna extend that straightaway and not a way you want to. Coming off of 4, just way too much height. You see that right toe dropping to try and save this hit, which is ultimately gonna give him a little bit of air time, but he's quite lucky there.
Yang Wengang is the leader as we have our first 10 sleds down. 9th place last week, currently leads with 10 to go from Kim Ji-soo and Alexander Schlintner. 10th in the first of our 2 heats and the first of 3 British sliders in the top 10, Craig Thompson, 30 years old, in his 25th World Cup start. His career best on this track is a 16th place finish, 5:06, another strong start. Not quite where we saw him in the last couple of seasons, but that may help him get quicker and quicker.
It's really great to see 3 Brits sitting in the top 10.
Steering hard at the end of 4 to avoid the hit in 5. 800s up on Yan Wengang. His first heat lead was 200s. Look at that,
Really
great
nice
exit.
top. Yeah, nice top part of the track.
Well, these new MCR Tech sleds built by Matthias Guggenberger and Martins and the rest of Ducour's families, the athletes tell me they steer very much more sensitively. They're much quicker to respond than the old BlackRock sleds that these guys were using. I'm not sure if Craig's on one today.
I think he's still on a BlackRock.
I think he's still on the BlackRock, but even so, holding on nearly to the end of the run, 57.59. So 57.59 compared to 58.02, over 0.4 of a second quicker than his first heat. And a 57.59 in the first heat would have left him in third place, so the track is still speeding up.
And it's holding, as we can see it's still quick. Nice flattening of that first pressure. Lets it rise a little bit on second, nice and controlled. Little bit of a flop there on the exit and takes that tap on the sliders right.
Well, Craig Thompson in second place with 9 to go, so no worse than 11th. Previous best on this track is 16th, so take it where you can. A decent start, it's getting better, and a personal best World Cup run on this track. There is the familiar figure of Mattia Gaspari from Cortina d'Ampezzo in the Dolomites, where the next Winter Olympic Games will be held, and a venue that is synonymous with tough tracks. The Cortina track only ever had refrigeration at the bottom, so often as not, it was concrete on the sidewalls rather than ice. That made it
Yeah,
hugely challenging.
That's nice.
Yeah, well, in the early days of skeleton, there were some World Cup skeleton races there, but in a bobsled, basically all you smelt was burning carbon fiber.
Oh. We would just see sparks probably from our bumpers.
Exactly so. Not sure what Mattia Gaspari was chatting about there, blathering on about, but here is the Italian. 8/10 off the lead in the first heat, 700s in hand over Yang Wengang, with those snipers shoes that so many athletes are using now.
Yeah, we all used to use Adidas shoes, and then Joe Cittini from Italy decided to come in and decide and design new shoes for us.
Yeah, right. Adidas pulled out of the market a few years ago, said it's such a tiny market, we can't keep making these. Little hit going into fourth for Mattia Gaspari. He was in the red anyway from the start, and that's added another 10th to the deficit. I'm afraid this is going in the wrong direction for Mattia.
He's got to be perfect here at the bottom to try and reel in the Chinese athlete.
Best result in a singles race on this track, 10th place in the World Championships 2021. He's also a
Bit of a bump there into 12.
bronze medalist in the Team Worlds, and his 15th place last week. He will hopefully be higher than that, but right now looks like losing 4, potentially 5 spots at the line. He is 4th at the line. So tied for 4th, in fact, with Alexander Schlintner, and there are 8 sleds to go. So there'll be a tie for 12th, no worse than. His best result here, 11th place in a World Cup race 2 seasons ago. Mattia, as ever, flamboyant.
You can see him really working hard. Both sides of him are steering through the Kreisel. The left and right legs are trying to get the sled under control. But in this, I think it just put the pressures too far around the corner, making it a really difficult exit for him. And that's where some of his speed went, just fighting that sled.
He's always a busy slider, always moving, which is not necessarily a great thing. Into our final 8 sleds, we had a tie for 7th place in the first heat, 3/4 of a second off the lead, Yin Cheng of China, and following him, Marcus Wyatt of Great Britain. Seventh World Cup start for Yin Cheng. He was 10th last week, so learning from his second week on this track, 491, good start.
Being that they're tied to the 100th of a second, which is so small. Well, it is tiny.
He's our push world champion back in Lake Placid before Christmas, and the fastest starter in the first heat, tied by Matt Weston, the leader. This is only his second week on this track. He's not raced here before. I think he may have come here on a development camp with Mark Woods, their development coach over the years. 3,800s up, losing ground.
For this being only one of his first time, second time here, this is a really good run.
Only 6th best speed. He will have the lead over Yan Wengang. He does, 2,400s of a second. But mistakes creeping in further down. 57.37, again, only one sled today has gone down quicker, and that is our current leader, Matt Weston, or our first heat leader, Matt Weston. So he's quicker than Christopher Grotehair managed in the first heat. And again, indication of how quickly he learns and how well this track is speeding up, never mind holding up.
You can really see how precise his toe steers are. When he puts it onto the ice, the toe is sideways. We have toe caps so that we can use our toes on the ice. Just trying to get the sled under control as he heads in this uphill section, get the sled going straight again.
Swinging the hips out sideways there to try and counter the steer, the way a MotoGP rider hangs a leg out to get that extra lean. Marcus Wyatt then, nothing in hand over Yin Cheng, and started 300s of a second slower than the Chinese athlete in the first heat, which means he needs a 494 if he's going to lose no more time. 495.
Another good start by Wyatt as well.
400s back, and I know Marcus has been on this new Guggenberger sled this season. Really likes the way it works for him.
It is still a learning curve because they say it takes, I don't know, like 50 or 75 runs to really feel a sled, and they're still working to get those runs.
Well, they started on it in Sigulda in Latvia, and that's a very similar track in nature. Best speed of all, he's in the green at the Kreisel. Great exit.
Really good exit, just he needs to push the speed all the way down the bottom of the track.
6th place last week, 7th in the first heat. He's accelerating away, best speed at the bottom of the track. So he's going to take the lead with 6 to go. 57.11, fastest run of the day so far. That's 400s quicker than the first heat leader Matt Weston could manage, and that is a big step up. That's more than a quarter second quicker than Ying Cheng just managed on his second run. That could well be enough to put him in the top 6. Is it enough for the medals? No, he was 3/4 of a second off in the first heat. That's not going to do it, I don't think.
It was a really nice run that he put down. Coming out of 9 here into that big long straightaway before Kreisel. Just trying to get over to that slider's left side.
He was thinking about the left toe there, and it never actually happened. The sled started to move anyway.
Exactly. Sometimes you have to be a little bit patient before the sled responds to your steers.
I think that's getting used to the sled. On the Black Rock, I'm sure he would have steered with the toe there. These sleds steer with much less input from the slider, so he's starting to get that feel. The instinct was for the toe, but he didn't use it. I think you're starting to get that crossover. It's starting to become more instinctive for them on the new sled. Well,
exactly, and it's just going to take time, and so it'll be interesting to see how these next few years shake out.
Well, here is Jung Seung-gui, who went to Christmas as our World Cup points leader, currently 4th in the standings with 2 silvers and a bronze in North America, 13th in Winterberg, back up to 4th place last week. He is in 6th place after the first heat, and his advantage over Marcus Wyatt, just 0.02 of a second from that first heat.
This is one of those tight groups that we have. He's got to really lay it down to catch Wyatt.
3 sleds covered by 200s. I mean, you know, that's a dead heat. If you're using your thumb and a stopwatch, that's a dead heat.
Definitely.
So let's see what he's got at the start. 5.03, 5.04 in the first heat, but immediately that gives away nearly a 10th to Wyatt.
Bit of a skid there off of 3.
Yeah, lots of work going on in 4. You could hear it as much as see it.
Tap into 6 as well.
Top half is going very much the wrong way for Jung Seung-gui. Good exit out of Chudai.
He had oversteered Kreisel in the first run. He looks to be letting it go a little bit more.
Now, and that's the result, best speed, but 2/10 back. All right, he stopped losing speed, he stopped hemorrhaging time. Is this enough for a top 6 run? He's closing on Wyatt, better speed. Is there enough ice left? It's gonna be close, 100th of a second or 2, 800s in it, 57.21, Marcus Wyatt, top 6 again. And so that will tie at least last week's result.
Marcus had really a great run, and Singy just had a couple too many mistakes to be able to hold on to his spot there.
However, not beyond the point, bounds of possibility he might still be top 6. Here in the Kreisel, big second pressure.
You can see those toes just dancing behind him a little bit. As he comes off of 14, lots of athletes are struggling here as they go into that uphill section. You could see those toes dropping behind him. Nice entry into 15.
14 is where you get on when you learn how to slide here as a kid, so you only do the bottom few corners. Marcus Wyatt leads, 5 to go. And the third of our 4th, what can Chen Wen Hao produce here? Chen, in only his 10th World Cup start, 5th last week, which was an all-time World Cup and Altenberg best for him.
400's better on the start there. That's a great improvement for him.
Yep, that start groove is still as quick as it was at least.
Really nice and relaxed in those top few corners.
Working a little bit in 4 to get the exit he wanted. Speed is still there, but he's lost a little bit of time to Marcus Wyatt. He's still 1200s up.
Nice down the street.
And a little untidy on the exit, 1200s up.
It's got to be perfect here at the bottom.
Is this going to be enough to take the lead? Oh, I don't think so. There's a little bobbly there at the bottom. Again, it's a dead level race. 600s back, Marcus Wyatt. Another personal best, 57.38. Chen Wenhao drops to 2nd by 600ths of a second. And Marcus Wyatt will be in the top 5. Last week, 6th place, his personal best here. This week, 5th place, at least. So Chen in 5th last week. Marcus was just behind him. They swapped positions today.
In the Kreisel, super precise with that toe steering. Then he brings it back to neutral before doing that again. It's really important that athletes don't steer for too long, otherwise it's adding to the height. As he comes off of Kreisel, just a little bit too much towards that right side.
Chen, still a top 6 finish guaranteed. He's in 2nd place with 4 to go as we get to the 2nd of our German athletes. And this is the hometown boy, Axel Jung. This is the man for whom all the orange T-shirts are hanging around. It's not the Dutch, it is the Saxons. Pink is, or green is traditionally the colour of Saxony that Kathleen Martini always used to have, but it's V-Active, his sponsor, who brings the orange to the party. 5:02, good start.
You can hear his big crowd at the whole way down the track cheering him on.
All right, now, how far was he out of the medals? 100th out of the medals.
Ooh, nice out of 4.
Axel definitely hunting for a medal here. He was the bronze medalist last week, silver and gold last season in the 2 races. World Championship silver here in 2020, best speed of all. This is a good, strong run for the medals, Liz.
Really nice looking run by Axel.
He's got that long, lean figure that works so well through the air here.
Just gaining more and more speed as he's going down the track. Big first pressure there, but that's really the biggest mistake we've seen.
Big lead, 56.87 run, the fastest of the competition so far by a big margin. 56.87 for Marcus Wyatt. I beg your pardon for Axel Jung. Takes Marcus Wyatt out of the leader's box, and that is 1/10 away from the all-time record set in the December race in 2021 by then double world champion Christopher Groothair.
That was a good run.
That was a great run. It may not win gold, but that's a medal.
You see him loading onto his sled here, getting those hands tucked under his legs. Coming into the straightaway, this was a really nice exit of corner 9. Stays nice and straight all the way down. No fighting of the sled like we've seen so many other athletes do today.
Well, listen, Liz, you know, an Olympic medal under his belt. Last week he was in bronze at home and he just said it was a fun race. He's in that period of his career, isn't he, where he's just enjoying his life. He's proved to himself that he can fight with the very best. And he leads here at home with 3 to go. But the next man, well, this could be a huge story because with his back to us is the last American to win a men's skeleton medal. Matt Antoine took silver in Whistler and in Lake Placid in December 2016. It was Lake Placid that was the most recent of those races. So since the 16th of December 2016, there has not been a World Cup medal for the USA. And after an astonishing first heat, if Austin Florian can clear his mind and do the same again, we could be on the brink of a really huge story.
Definitely. He was the fastest starter last week as well.
Little side skid step as he loads, 4.97, a big start from him again, ties his first heat, but it wasn't so much the start list, it was the beautiful drive down the track that put him in the medal contention position.
A little bit high there in the first part of 4, drives it through nicely.
400s up on Axel Jung, the gap was 6 at the start, it's coming down. And Jung was very fast indeed, but that's a great exit out of corner 9.
Really good exit, really nice control. You see that knee getting pushed in for that final pressure of Kreisel.
Third best speed. Axel Jung is going to lead at the line. It's still a great looking run from Austin Florian.
Really good looking run for Austin Florian.
11th last week, his personal best here is 9th. He's in 2nd place, just ahead of Marcus White. Axel Jung is in the medals again, but Austin Florian could yet claim a medal on this track in his day's work. Look at the embrace he gives to his coach, Tuffy Latour. Yes, 2 enormous sides here in Altenberg for Austin Florian of the USA.
Honestly, well done. That was a really good job for him today. Some small mistakes, but I'm being picky. He really had some good slides today.
Previous best on this track, 9th place in 2019. He's had 2 top 6 finishes in his World Cup career. He will be no worse than 4th here. And in a couple of minutes, who knows, he may even be on the podium. There's a big smile. He had 40 friends and family in Lake Placid. I bet they wish they were here today. Christopher Grotehair, silver medalist after the first heat, just 1,500s up on Axel Jung. Let's see if he can hang on for another medal here.
2-time world champion on this track. He knows how to drive it well.
Yeah, he really knows this place. Silver medal last week, silver medal the season after, silver and a bronze last year after the World Champs. And yeah, it was coming here and winning 2 consecutive World Championships on what is not his home track for Christopher Grotehair that really sealed his abilities. And then, of course, he went out and won the Olympic gold medal in Beijing in February. 300s up.
Losing his lead.
And the speed wasn't great. He's not going to drop away into 3rd place, but he's got enough speed. Big knee steer there coming into the final 2 corners. Is it enough to take the lead from Axel Jung? It is enough. 56.99. Axel with a 56.87 is still the fastest man down. No, he's yes, he is down the mountain so far. And Christopher Grotehair clings on by 300ths of a second.
So close.
Yeah. Over 3,000 meters of ice, 300ths of a second.
Making that really difficult. He's running, hopping on that sled. You want to have your head as close to the ice as physically possible. Here he's in corner 9. Really nice exit, letting the sled fly.
So close for Axel Jung. He was disappointed by that, definitely. And Grotehair, well, now all they can do is watch Matt Weston of Great Britain. First time Matt led a race, the man behind him, who's now his coach, Martins Ducours, was in 2nd after the first heat in Innsbruck. And Matt couldn't handle the pressure of being last out and didn't know what to do, didn't know how to win. A year later they came back, he took his first win in Innsbruck. He's had 2 wins this season, including here last week, and he has a half-second advantage now over Christopher Grotehair. Big head steer at the end of 4.
And a little bit of a tap there as he enters into corner 5.
4,600s up. He is making this look very fluid indeed. And again, a great exit out of corner 9.
Leading a little bit of speed, maybe a bit of an oversteer there. Nice exit, small tap.
Only the 4th best speed, but he's losing so little time to Grotehair. This is still going to be a comfortable margin. If he's clean here, and he is, he's going to pick up more speed.
One of the nicest 14-15s we've seen.
Second win in 8 days on this track for Matt Weston, a 57.01. Not quite as quick as a couple of the other trips down the mountain in the second heat, but he'd done more than enough in the first. Fantastic win for Matt Weston. That is his 4th career gold, his 2nd here in Altenberg. And there's Martin Stucours. And Matt, again, Marcus White is the first to give Matt that big hug of congratulations. Oh, and there's his mum and dad. Oh, and the Union flag has gone in the ditch. So his mum and dad were over in North America, and boy, are they enjoying being able to come and watch at the trackside this year compared to having to watch online over the last couple of seasons. Well, I don't know how much pressure he was feeling, Elizabeth, but to go out and repeat on the same track against the same athletes, that takes a lot of mental fortitude.
It takes a lot of mental fortitude, and it's a good thing he's coached by someone who has done that consistently, with Martin's being able to give him all the tips and tricks, I'm sure.
And in addition to his 4th career gold, for the first time, Matt Weston, European champion.
Oh, yeah.
And the last British slider to be a European champion in men's skeleton back in 2008 in Chisana. You want to have a stab in the dark?
I'm going to guess it was a Bromley?
It was Kristen Bromley. He was a 3-time European champion, and now Matt Weston is the first man since Alexander Tretyakov in 2021 to be European champion who was not named Martin Stucours since Frank Rommel in 2009.
Wow.
Martin's won 12 out of 13 in a row. Matt Weston, his protege, who he's coaching, is now the European champion. So European silver goes to Christopher Grotehair, European bronze to Axel Jung, 4th goes to Marcus Wyatt, 5th to Craig Thompson, and 6th in the Europeans to Mattia Gaspari.
I know you want to shout out. European.
Yes, he's remembered, and it's important. It's an important landmark. You know, 4th career win, 2nd in Altenberg, but he is the European champion. And as we take the Chinese and the Koreans and Austin Florin of USA out of that, you have got our World Cup points leaders, Christopher Grotehair, ahead of Marcus White and Matt Weston now. It's all change, but our European medalists, Matt Weston, Christopher Grotehair and Axel Jung. Again, Marcus White taking 4th European Championship, Craig Thompson taking 5th, and Mattia Gaspari in 6th place. So the 3 British sliders in the top half dozen of the European Championships. And that, again, is vindication of the changes that have been made in the British skeleton setup over the summer and into this new Olympic quad. That's a noisy old rabble down the bottom. Exactly what we're hoping to see. And here is the man who led after the first heat. He's now accustomed to the changing room emptying around him and being the last man out on ice. That's no longer strange to him. And Matt Weston, well, Elizabeth, we've learned quite quickly, if you give him a lead, he doesn't often give it away, does he?
No, and I think knowing you have that in your back pocket, it's like, okay, let's do what I can do, but you know you have a little bit in the bank there.
Yeah. So, 4th World Cup win and 1st European Championship gold ahead of Christopher Grotehair and Axel Jung. Marcus White, Craig Thompson 4th and 5th, and Mattia Gaspari in 6th place in the Europeans, tied with Alexander Schlintner. I hadn't spotted that. Yes, he was to the 100th. So they are both 6th in the European Championships. And behind them, Felix Kaisinger, Florin Auer, Vladislav Heraskevich, and then the rookie, Rasmus Johansson, did himself a great service, I think, and Danish sliding. Look forward to seeing much more of him. Good stuff. And that is it then for men's skeleton. 1 down, 5 more races to go this weekend. The first of which comes up later on this afternoon at 3:30 local, 14:30 GMT, 09:30 Eastern. The women's skeleton race gets underway. Join Elizabeth Barjay, me, Martin Haven, and the rest of the IBSF TV crew in about an hour and 20 minutes for all the action from the women's skeleton race.